Hello, Utility Fleet World. It's Kurt Moreland, Associate Publisher, with another edition of Under the UFP. But, usually this time of year, a lot of us would be getting ready for Utility Expo. But remember, Utility Expo is an every other year event. Now, our market is front-loaded with events in the spring, and I've talked about some of those: ATSA for Traffic Safety, NTEA, NAFA ACT Expo, regional meetings, as well as EUFMC, our annual event in June that we're proud media partners of. But in the off-Utility Expo year, what do? Where do you go to look for new products and to open up a wider scope in the fleet market? Well, an event that you may not have on your radar but should be is SEMA. Now, SEMA stands for Specialty Equipment Market Association. And it was first mentioned to me to attend this event by a UFP advertiser many years ago. And at first I thought, well, this is kind of a custom car show. Maybe it's for people who own, body shops, paint body shops. So I went out there to explore and investigate, and I was so wrong. They have so much to offer, especially for any fleet managers who are in the Western United States. It's in Vegas every year. And just to give you an idea, I walk until I'm sore each day just to try and cover all the new products and things there are to see there. And I'm going to give you some examples. They have an entire building, an entire 2-story building, like a warehouse building, just with off-road vendors for suspensions, hitches, off-road products. If you get stuck in the mud, getting pulled out of the mud, so many different things. And some of these vendors come from all over the world that you may not be even aware of. Then in another warehouse building, they have an entire building just dedicated to tires. So, you can be with Cooper Tires, who've advertised in UFP and Goodyear and the regulars, but then there's also tire manufacturers from all over the world that are there. And you're going to find racing tires there, but you're also going to find a huge selection of off-road tires. Now, if that wasn't enough, on day 3, you can visit Apex. Now, that's AAPEX, and that focuses on shop maintenance. That is its own separate entity, but it's part of the SEMA Show. And there you're going to find lift equipment, tools, everything that you could think of that's going to help your shop maintenance department. And then there's also just the miscellaneous, like Shell and some of the motor companies are there. That you get to see, muffler companies, telematics, back to the paint and detailing to make your fleet, your utility fleet, or, your public or government fleet look good. There's just, I'm not kidding, an ocean of solutions to investigate out there that will take you the entire week if you want to be there. And again, this is a show you may never have heard of, but you really want to have it on your radar. And, by the way, you're in fleets. So if you're passionate about vehicles, there's plenty of eye candy out there. As you go to meet with the vendors, you're going to pass customized cars and trucks that, again, are going to make anybody involved in fleets happy to be out there. That's kind of like the icing on the cake. Now, in this podcast, if you followed it, I love a good celebrity encounter story. And that's another benefit of going to SEMA is I've actually had the pleasure of bumping into Richard Petty, the king of NASCAR, 3 times. Once just in a crowd out by the Shell booth. Also, he was at the signing autographs at the Ford booth, and even was at another vendor's booth where we needed some autographed promo cards for our Incident Prevention Utility Safety Conference, which was going to be in Charlotte, and we had an event at the NASCAR Hall of Fame. And he could not have been more gracious with his time, stopping to sign promo cards that we could include in our raffles. As a matter of fact, I was stunned that he does not have a big PR agency. His family, relatives are his handlers, and he graciously even did a 1-minute promo for our conference, inviting people to come to Charlotte and check out the NASCAR Hall of Fame while they were there. So if you are going to SEMA, again, that's just another fun icing on the cake. Check out their agenda for race car drivers, whether it's NASCAR, Indy. Chances are you're going to meet Kyle Busch or Joey Logano at a vendor booth. Another opportunity, which again is just a benefit, a perk of being there, is if you like all the cable TV shows out there and on the channels about, upgrading fleets or that, a lot of those people from those shows are there again in vendor booths. You just have to seek them out and do a little bit of research. I personally am not a big follower of the shows other than Ice Road Truckers. I kind of pass them by, but I know a lot of people, especially if you're in fleets, that enjoy those shows. Again, that's just another fun sidebar there, is that you may get to bump into some of those people at the SEMA show. So if you are passionate about trucks and cars, go to SEMA. And you know what? That's not all. You're probably saying, well, Kurt, that's nice, the cars and trucks, but we're in the commercial truck market. Well, guess what? SEMA has an committee called TORA, TORA. And this is actually a committee that is dedicated to light commercial accessories. And TORA stands for Truck and Off-Road Alliance. And you can go on their website if you want, but their description says that if you're a company, a manufacturer, distributor, you sell or install accessories or services for light-duty pickup trucks, vans, SUVs, you can get involved in this division, or I should say committee, subcommittee, when you join SEMA. Sounds like a description of our UFP advertisers, doesn't it? So I invite you to check that out. And if that wasn't enough, one of the cool things about the SEMA show, which involves TORA, is they do a charity Pinewood Derby event in one of the evenings. So it kind of takes me back to my Cub Scout, Boy Scout days when we used to do make the Pinewood Derby cars, and then you'd race them on the track against each other. You pick out a pre-made car and you buy that car. That money is donated to charity, and then you get to watch your car race against all the other ones. And who knows, maybe you'll pick a winner. But the nice thing is that the money that goes for this Pinewood Derby and sponsoring the cars goes to very worthy charities, such as the Austin Hatcher Foundation. Another one that they help is Child Help, and another one is Victory Junction. And you can find out more about that by going on the SEMA website and clicking on the webpage SEMA Cares. That's SEMA Cares, or investigate Torah on the SEMA. So that's kind of a 101 of the SEMA Show, something that I've been involved in probably for about 10 years now. We're proud to be media partners, and also that's where I go to, again, cast a wider net and really get just a volume of new product offerings that you might not see in our scope of, niche market trade shows that sometimes we go to. So with all that said, now I'm going to give you some travel tips. If you do go to SEMA and you do travel to Vegas, this is my opinion of travel tips that I'm going to give you, not SEMA's. These are my own personal opinions. One, get the airport cab driver's cell phone number and use that person as kind of your personal Uber or Lyft driver, because that way you don't have to wait in lines at hotels, and transportation is really hard. The cab lines are monstrous at SEMA. Remember, SEMA has, I think, like 160,000 people. So imagine if all those people come out of the exhibit hall at the same time. And that leads me to point number 2. Go a little later and leave a little earlier to avoid all the transportation lines. And that leads me to point number 3. Stay at a hotel within walking distance of the monorail, because cabs and Ubers, especially during SEMA time, can get a little pricey, but the monorail is I think, an economical transportation. But again, watch the lines for that and try and time it so that you're not waiting in too long of lines. Another tip I mentioned earlier, check out the agenda ahead of time for any celebrities or race car drivers that may be appearing in vendor booths. Prepare ahead of time on the vendors and exhibitors that you want to see, especially the ones that you don't. And finally, kind of on the fun side is instead of going to some of the expensive places in Vegas, go to Fremont Street. The Fremont Street experience is fun. They have free concerts there. You can go to the Mob Museum, which is an old converted village library. Has some really interesting exhibits. I even saw some from Chicago there in Las Vegas. Of course, you've got the laser light show canopy. If you want to have some inexpensive fun, you can zip line across Fremont Street, and of course get your picture taken in front of the $1 million in Binions. It's also a great place to get inexpensive food and souvenirs. And if you have a little extra time, you're only about 3 hours from Zion National Park, which is an amazing park if you've never been there. There's also Red Rocks Park, which I have not been to, and a friend of mine who lives in Vegas says that at the Hoover Dam, they've converted some railroad tracks and tunnels to a bike path. So that's on my to-do list. Speaking of the Hoover Dam, if you are in the utility market and you've never been to Hoover Dam, the T&D, the transmission and distribution infrastructure that you're going to see at Hoover Dam is absolutely amazing. You actually get to see where the electricity is made that gets pumped all over the western states, is created right there. And it's towers and utility cables as far as you can see. It's pretty amazing. I highly recommend it. One thing is, although the Grand Canyon is close by, I would recommend that you visit that when you're in Phoenix or Flagstaff. It's a little bit closer and easier to visit than from Vegas. The drive there is pretty much all desert, which I've done before. So that concludes my discussion this month about, again, an event that may not be on your radar, but one that you might want to put on your radar, the SEMA Show, held every year in Las Vegas. It's usually either around the last week of October, around Halloween, or the first week in November, and it will be the first week in November this year. So if you come out to SEMA, say hi to me. However, I'll be like a needle in a haystack with a lot of the people. And that reminds me of one more tip. If you do go to the SEMA Show in your backpack, pack some snacks. Because again, when you have that many people in one place, the food lines get a little long. So be prepared with bottles of water and snack food. So I hope you've enjoyed this podcast and got some value out of it. We'll be continuing to do deep dives into some other utility subjects as we move forward in the fall. So this is Kurt Moreland, Associate Publisher with Utility Fleet Professional. I certainly hope you've enjoyed this podcast. Again, put something on your radar that may not be there. And just want to remind everybody out there, all of our listeners, everybody out there in truck land, fleet land, to roll safe out there. And we'll see you for the next edition of the podcast.
And opinions expressed during this podcast are solely those of the individuals involved and do not necessarily represent those of Utility Business Media and its employees. It is strongly recommended that you discuss any actions or policy changes with your company management prior to implementing.